Here's my first impressions of Vyse. So, I've read a tiny bit about Vyse, not seen too much about Vyse, so we'll just see how good she is, really. From what I can see, she has a pretty cool aesthetic. The way that her stuff looks pretty cool. And looks pretty strong. The reason why... So, two things, or a couple things to see. It looks like she pressed F to detonate it, but I could be wrong. One other thing as well is that the cooldown is 20 seconds, which means that you can get like 5 flashes in a round, not including post, which is pretty insane. It probably more than likely includes post, but my god, that is a lot of flashes. That is a lot of flashes. There must be a cap on it. Surely there's like, I feel like it should be like max like 2, and then it doesn't have a cooldown after that, and it just like it's like done. Surely you have to put a max on it, or like a higher cooldown. I do understand the cooldown though in some ways, right? Because if they go to your site and then you want to play retake, you can't have like a 30-second flash cooldown because you've just used it on the retake probably, like on the actual take. Sorry. So it means that when it comes on to retake, you won't have it. With the 20 seconds, you will. But I'm not sure if that's worth the 5 flashes. How oppressive that will be on attack is crazy. I understand that the flashes are killable though, like on the wall. So maybe it's not super insane, but still, that's pretty crazy. Maybe if they kill it, it's a higher cooldown. And when you detonate it, it's 20 seconds. When they kill it, it's like 30. That could be what. That could be fine. Also, the wall. The wall it lasts for how long? Like, it's still up at this point. It's pretty crazy. So, one of the most important parts of Valorant when you're attacking a site is usually to split. Like, splitting is a really strong thing to do, generally. So, sheer punishes people that don't do that. So against good players, I don't imagine the sheer is going to be crazy strong. It's going to be strong, but it's not going to be crazy strong. Against bad players, it's going to be absolutely broken because they will 5-man the main, and then the entry will go out, and then the entry will have 4 people stuck behind the indestructible wall, and then the entry will be alone on site. One of the most important things about Valorant in general to do is to isolate fights, and sheer does that, and I think sheer might be one of those abilities that are just super strong. It also has other uses too, which I'll go over in like the other video we're going to watch. One thing as well about the Razor Vine. So this definitely seems like her weakest ability, but I think it's hidden OP on pro play under one condition, that this does not dissipate if it like over long distances. If so, like with Yoru Flash for instance, you can't throw it super far because it'll dissipate in the air. It'll just fade in the air, fizzle in the air because it doesn't hit anything. If this Razor Vine doesn't do that, and it just has to land at some point, then it's going to be really strong because you can use it to have global pressure on attack. And I think this agent, as a sentinel, plays very much like an initiator in some ways. And I think having like such agency on attack, and then having agency on keeping your space on defense, or like in general, seems really, really strong and seems like what Deadlock wanted to be. Because Deadlock at the moment, or in general, ever since her release, really, she's really struggled to attack, but she's quite good at holding areas when she actually gets them. So usually she wants like Gecko, for instance, to help take an area, and then Deadlock can defend it, right? It's what we saw with the Icebox Deadlock Gecko comps that people were running. I think EG ran it once or twice, or like they're running it quite a lot. That type of comp, right? That's what you see a lot. This agent does not care about the rest of the team to take space. They can do it themselves. They have the Arcros, and they have like the ult, they have this Razor Vine. They do have ways to take space themselves. Obviously, it's nowhere near as good as what an Initiator can do, but it's like a hybrid. And this hybrid might be enough against certain like teams or like certain agents, and for certain areas of a map. So she seems like a really strong agent that can like flick a switch mid-round and be like, I want to be aggressive, I want to be defensive, and she can choose between the two. Very much what Deadlock can't do. And I think that this agent might be one of the strongest agents we've had on release, just by looking at the agent, like what the agent can potentially do. Because just in theory, just looking at what her abilities can do are crazy. Like isolating fights with the sheer, getting rid of like basically an economical advantage with her ult. The flashes seem really, really strong because you can put them anywhere on site, and it's not like a breach flash in some ways, right? Where you'll hear like the sound of it like going towards the wall, and then you'll hear it flash. And technically, breach can flash anywhere on a wall. But he's got some like options of like, he's got still limited options of really where he can flash. He needs line of sight of where he wants to flash on the wall. She doesn't need this. She can place the flash anywhere and detonate it from anywhere. Like, that is pretty crazy. Can you imagine playing against KO again? Oh, actually, that's something else I wanted to talk about. But playing against KO, and you put your setup on the other side, and you can still flash for your teammate on the other side of the map. Like, that is crazy to me. That the KO can get flashed while in ult against his Vyse, by the way. One of the only agents that can probably do that to a KO is flash him while he's ulting. That is crazy. Actually crazy. One of the few agents. There are some agents that can do it still. But that is crazy. Definitely more likely to on Vyse than anyone else. The one thing I also wanted to talk about as well, when she's silenced, wonder what happens to the shear. Because does the shear get revealed? Is it killable? Like on the floor? Like when it's revealed by the silence? Even if it does get revealed by the silence, I don't know. That's pretty crazy. I wonder what happens to it. I don't know without testing, but that is like an important thing to note because it might mean that if Vyse gets played a lot, KO might see play because it counters Vyse. There might be that, but I'm not sure if Vyse is really that strong to warrant that. We'll have to see. Okay, so this video is by Kanga. I'm going to put the link to this video in the description. Please go watch his content. He makes really good content. So I'm just going to quickly look at like the ability a bit more in depth. So the arc rose, you don't have to press F on it. You can detonate it with E. Makes it even more strong. It makes it less clunky as well as an ability. Because if you think about it right, the best place to put this arc rose is probably going to be behind you on a wall that the enemy's going to face. So it means that if you have to press F on it, you have to turn around, press F on it, then turn back around to fight. With this, you can just press E. Much better. Definitely like a quality of life, but it also makes the agent notably stronger. Yeah, I wonder what happens when it gets killed, if it's still a 20-second cooldown, if it's more. Also, if it gets silenced, is it revealed? I'm guessing it is. The flash itself does seem like breach level slow in some ways though. But as I've said, it's a bit more unpredictable with where it's going to be as opposed to breach. So it is technically a bit, I think it's a bit less dodgeable. I think it might still be one of the best like flashes in the game simply because of its cooldown. We'll have to see. Definitely on attack. I think on attack it could be potentially oppressive. I've already talked about the Razor Vine, like if it has that global like presence of like throwing it across the map and being annoying choke points, it's going to be hidden OP on pro play. But other than that, this ability is like definitely like the lesser on the power scale. Definitely more design power went into the other abilities on the basic abilities. The shear definitely seems like a it's like a really strong ability in like the lower elos. I think in higher elo it won't be as strong because I think players will more accurately play around it. And I also think as well, splitting in general is a stronger thing to do, and more players at higher ranks will be splitting, lurking, etc. And I think that the shear gets countered a bit by that type of stuff. And I think the proper entrying with like maybe even multiple players coming through at the same time and that kind of stuff can counter it, and it's more likely that that will happen at higher levels. So this is definitely stronger at lower ranks, worse at higher ranks. Something also interesting about the I call it shear, is that it can work as like an anti-flank tool. So it tells you that the shear is triggered. That means that you can place it on the flank and have it as like a tripwire basically. I don't think it's definitely not the strongest way to use it. I even think on attack as well. Anything other than a 1v1 situation, even then in a 1v1 it can be useful. It definitely sees use in clutches, and it definitely sees use in post plants. So it's not exactly the greatest thing to put on the flank. I can definitely see Vyse being used in a double sentinel comp because she can kind of latch onto the other initiator and kind of like still provide some things that a second initiator will do. Like sometimes you can put a flash in that will help like your other initiator initiate. She can get like a molly in like an anti-flood position and that kind of stuff. She can use her ult to get the economical advantage essentially in the round. So she definitely has like initiator tools, but she also has the sentinel tools. And I feel like she doesn't quite have the anti-flank tools that other normal sentinels will have, but she has the stopping power of sight, of like holding a sight. So it really does mean that I think that she will get seen in double sentinel comps, like Deadlock would love to do. But once again, Deadlock is like Deadlock is literally what this agent wants to be. It's so sad, to be honest, because I really like Deadlock, but this agent just seems so much stronger in the role. So next is Still Garden. Still Garden is such a cool name, by the way. Actually, such a cool name. Still Garden. I don't think this ability is like super strong. It's really good, as I've said, the economical advantage it gives you, and also the there's also an element of like if you're attacking a site and you have Still Garden up, it means that the enemies on site probably don't want to play there, especially if you're on like an eco, for instance. It might be, not really especially, but like even if you're on an eco, right? This really could be like an eco bridge ult, because it's very similar. I see it very much like that, because it means that you could ult them and then they literally can't use their advantage versus you. And in some cases, they straight up will be worse off because they'll have like a classic, maybe a sheriff, maybe a shorty, something like that, right? If they're really preparing for this to happen. And then maybe if you buy stingers or something, you're still going to have like a decent advantage potentially versus them. So to me, like, this ult is really, really shines in its pressure it might give the enemy team to maybe give up a site, even when you're on eco. They might just give up the site for you, like to you, or they might have to be really, really aggressive into you to force you to not use it, or to force you to use it early, or to do something like that, right? Or to like try and kill her off fast in the round, like make a play on them, just so they can't use this ult to get the site, or to like really feel the pressure of them potentially using the ult on site, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I explained that the greatest, but hopefully that was comprehensive enough. But yeah, I do think that my overall thoughts on Vyse is that she's pretty strong. She's going to be strong on release. And I think that she's going to see decent amount of play. It is 5 months, I think, maybe 5 or 6 months till pro play. So I think that she would see pro play, but I obviously don't know what's going to happen to her and what agent's going to be released in that space of time. But I would say that she was good enough. She would be good enough to go into pro play, especially with, like, as I've talked about, the Razor Vines going across the map. I think that is definitely a hidden OP thing for pro. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in my next one.